The notification on my phone buzzed at exactly 2:17 p.m. on a Tuesday that would change everything. "Brian, don't come to Mom's birthday party. You'll just embarrass us in front of Jessica's new boyfriend. He's really important, and we need to make a good impression." The message was from my father, Robert, and those 37 words contained more venom than I'd felt from him in years. I stared at the screen in my corner office on the 42nd floor, the Los Angeles skyline stretching endlessly before me. My company, Green Tech Solutions, had just closed a $15 million funding round that morning. The champagne from our celebration was still chilling in the break room, yet here I was, being told I wasn't good enough to attend my own mother's 65th birthday party. You see, for over 2 years, I'd been quietly paying my parents' utility bills. Not because they asked, they never knew. Every month, like clockwork, I'd transfer money to cover their electricity, water, gas, and internet. Nearly $10,000 over those 24 months, slipping silently from my account to theirs. I did it because I loved them, because I could afford it, and because I remembered what it felt like to worry about keeping the lights on. But apparently, love isn't always enough. Apparently, success isn't always visible. And apparently, my sister, Jessica's new boyfriend, someone she'd been dating for barely 3 months, was more worthy of respect than the son who'd been supporting them without a single word of recognition. My assistant, Sarah, knocked gently on my glass door. "Mr. Chen? The team is wondering if you're joining the celebration downstairs." I looked at her kind face, then back at the message on my phone. "Actually, Sarah, I need you to help me with something. Can you pull up all the automatic payments I have set up for my parents' address?" As the list populated on my screen, PG, Water Department, Spectrum, Internet, SoCal Gas, I felt something shift inside me. Not anger, exactly. Something colder, something final. For 2 years, I'd been the invisible son, the one who cared from the shadows. But if I was truly that embarrassing, if my presence was that unwelcome, then perhaps it was time to step fully into that shadow. "Cancel them," I said quietly. "Cancel them all." Sarah's eyes widened. "Sir, are you sure? These have been running for 2 years, 3 months, and 16 days, I finished. "Yes, I'm sure. Effective immediately." The cursor hovered over the confirmation button. One click, and the safety net I'd woven beneath my parents would disappear. One click, and they'd discover just how much their embarrassing son had actually been worth. I clicked. The next 3 weeks passed in a strange, suspended quiet. I threw myself into work, leading strategy meetings, reviewing product developments, and preparing for our next phase of expansion. My phone stayed silent, no calls from home, no messages, nothing. It was as if our family's invisible thread had finally snapped, and nobody seemed to notice the difference. Jessica posted constantly on social media about Mom's upcoming party. Pictures of decorations being planned, catering menus, outfit choices. Her boyfriend, Marcus, or Matt, or Michael, I could never quite remember his name from her. Scattered mentions appeared in the background of several photos. A clean-cut guy in his early 30s, always smiling politely at the camera. He looked familiar somehow, but I couldn't place him. My mother, Linda, called twice during those weeks, but only to ask if I'd heard from Jessica about table arrangements and gift coordination. Both conversations lasted less than 5 minutes. She never mentioned Dad's message, never asked if I was planning to attend. The assumption was clear. I wouldn't be there, and that was perfectly fine with everyone. I found myself working later and later, partly to avoid going home to my empty Malibu house, and partly because the office felt more like family than my actual family did. My team had become the people who celebrated my wins, who asked about my weekend plans, who noticed when I seemed off. The irony wasn't lost on me that the people who worked for me cared more about my well-being than the people who'd raised me. On the Friday before the party, I sat in my car in the company parking garage, engine running, air conditioning, humming. My phone buzzed with a group text from Jessica. "Can't wait for tomorrow. Marcus is so excited to meet everyone. Mom's been cooking all day, and Dad even cleaned his golf clubs to impress him. It's going to be perfect. Perfect." I turned off the engine and sat in the growing darkness. Tomorrow, while my family celebrated without me, while they impressed this mysterious Marcus with their warmth and hospitality, their lights would go out, their water would stop running, their internet would disconnect, and I would be exactly where they wanted me, nowhere to be found. But as I walked toward the elevator, something nagged at me about Marcus. Why did he look so familiar? Why did Dad care so much about impressing him? And why did I feel like I was forgetting something important? The elevator doors closed, and I rode up to my office one more time. I had work to finish, and tomorrow, my family would finally understand exactly what they'd lost. Saturday, October 14th, my mother's 65th birthday. I woke up in my Malibu house to the sound of waves crashing against the rocks below, the morning sun streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows. For a moment, I almost forgot what day it was. Almost. My phone showed 17 missed calls from Jessica, all from the last hour, 12 text messages, 3 voicemails. I didn't need to listen to them to know what they said. The utilities had been scheduled to disconnect this morning, and by now, the party preparation would be in full chaos. I made myself coffee and sat on my deck, watching surfers catch waves in the distance. The normalcy of it felt surreal. People going about their Saturday morning routines while 12 miles away, my family was discovering that their embarrassing son had been their lifeline all along. My phone buzzed again. "Jessica." I let it go to voicemail. Then Dad called. I watched his name flash on the screen until it stopped. Then Mom called. Same response. By noon, the calls had become frantic. Mixed in between my family members were numbers I didn't recognize, probably relatives who'd driven in for the party, wondering why the house was dark and silent. I imagined the scene, guests arriving with gifts and flowers, finding a house without power, without water, without any of the basic services that make celebration possible. At 1:30 p.m., Jessica sent a text that made me pause. Brian, I don't know what's happening, but Marcus keeps asking questions about you. He says he knows you from somewhere. Please, just call me back. Everyone's asking where you are, and nothing is working in the house. Marcus asking questions about me. That nagging familiarity tugged at my mind again. Where had I seen him before? Why would he know me? At 2:45 p.m., my phone rang with a number I did recognize. Aunt I sold, Mom's sister from Portland. She'd always been the family mediator, the one who called when drama reached critical mass. I stared at her contact photo, a woman in her 70s with kind eyes and a no-nonsense expression. Against my better judgment, I answered. Brian, honey, what in God's name is going on over there? Her voice crackled through what sounded like a video call. I'm trying to wish your mother happy birthday, and their house looks like it's been abandoned. Jessica's crying. Your father's ranting about the power company, and this poor boy Marcus looks like he's seen a ghost. They told me not to come, Aunt Isolde. Said I'd embarrass them. What? That's ridiculous. You're her son. You wait. Her voice trailed off. Brian, can you see my screen? I'm video calling them right now. And Marcus is... Oh my word. What, Aunt Isolde? What's happening? Brian. Marcus just asked Jessica if her brother is Brian Chen, the CEO of Green Tech Solutions. My blood turned to ice. Aunt Isolde, I said carefully, put me on speaker. I want to hear this. Through the phone, I could hear the chaos of my family's ruined party. Voices overlapping, chairs scraping, someone crying softly in the background. Then Aunt Isolde's voice, clear and commanding. Linda, put everyone in the living room. Brian's on the phone, and we're going to sort this out right now. Brian? My mother's voice, shaky and confused. Honey, where are you? Everything's gone wrong today, and... Mom. The word felt strange in my mouth after weeks of silence. I'm at home. You told me not to come, remember? A pause. Then my father's voice, defensive and sharp. Now listen here, son. I never said you couldn't. Dad. I cut him off. You texted me exactly 22 days ago. Quote, don't come to Mom's birthday party. You'll embarrass us in front of Jessica's new boyfriend. He's really important. End quote. Silence stretched through the phone like a held breath. Then a new voice. Male. Uncertain. Mr. Chen? Sir, is this really? I mean, are you Jessica's brother? Marcus. And suddenly, like a puzzle piece sliding into place, I knew exactly who he was. Marcus Rivera, junior project manager in our renewable energy division. Hardworking, dedicated, but barely on my radar. Someone I might pass in the hallway and nod to. Someone who attended company meetings but rarely spoke up. Someone who, in a company of over 400 employees, was completely unremarkable to me. But apparently, I was not unremarkable to him. Marcus, I said, my voice carrying the quiet authority I used in boardrooms. Yes, this is Brian Chen, and you're Marcus Rivera, employee ID 4457, Renewable Energy Division, hired 18 months ago, currently working on the solar panel efficiency project under Director Walsh. The silence on the other end was deafening. Finally, Marcus spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. Sir, I had no idea. Jessica never mentioned. I mean, she said her brother worked in tech, but she made it sound like he was struggling, like he was some kind of disappointment. I could hear my sister's sharp intake of breath, could imagine the color draining from her face. A disappointment, I repeated slowly. Is that what she told you, Marcus? She said you barely made ends meet, that you were always borrowing money from your parents, that they were embarrassed to talk about your career because it was going nowhere fast. My mother's voice cracked through the phone. Brian, that's not. We never. But we all knew it was exactly what they'd thought. What they'd believed. What they'd told people. Marcus, I continued. What exactly do you know about Green Tech Solutions? Sir, Marcus's voice was growing stronger, more professional. Green Tech Solutions is one of the most innovative, sustainable energy companies on the West Coast. 15 million in recent funding, partnerships with 3 major utility companies, and you personally were named in Forbes 30 Under 30 for energy innovation 2 years ago. I could hear a pin drop in that living room. Then Marcus continued, his voice gaining confidence as he spoke to his boss, perhaps forgetting that his girlfriend's family was listening to every word. The solar efficiency project I'm working on, it's based on your original patent from MIT. Director Walsh shows us your early presentations in team meetings. You started the company in a garage 6 years ago with your MIT roommate, and now we're valued at over $50 million. You're kind of a legend in sustainable energy circles, sir. Jessica's voice, small and broken. Marcus, what are you saying? I'm saying, Marcus replied, and I could hear the realization dawning in his voice, that your brother is the CEO of the company I work for, the company I respect more than any other place I've ever worked, and you told me he was a failure. My father's voice blustering. Now wait, just a minute. Nobody said he was a failure. Dad, I interrupted. For 2 years, 4 months, and 18 days, I've been paying your utility bills. All of them. Every month. Without you knowing. Without you asking. Without you even suspecting. Nearly $10,000. Because I loved you and because I could afford to help. The silence stretched longer this time. When you told me I'd embarrass you, I canceled those payments. That's why your power is off. That's why your water doesn't work. That's why your internet is dead. Because the embarrassing son who wasn't good enough to attend his own mother's birthday party was the same son who'd been keeping your lights on. My mother's sob came through clearly. Oh, Brian, we didn't know. You never asked, I said simply. You never wondered how I was doing. Never celebrated my successes. Never thought to include me in your happiness. But you expected my money to flow invisibly into your lives while you told people I was barely getting by. Marcus spoke again, his voice tight with what sounded like anger. Jessica, you told me your family was close. You said your parents were so proud of both their children. You said, Marcus, please, Jessica interrupted, panic creeping into her voice. I can explain. No, Marcus said firmly. I can't be part of this. Mr. Chen, sir, I had no idea. If I had known, I never would have. I'm so sorry. And then I heard the sound of footsteps, a door opening and closing, and Jessica's anguished cry. Marcus, wait, please don't go. But he was gone. The aftermath of Marcus's departure hit the room like a shockwave. Through the phone, I could hear Jessica sobbing, my mother trying to comfort her, and my father's heavy breathing as he processed what had just happened. Auntie Solda, ever the family diplomat, was the first to break the terrible silence. Well, she said with characteristic bluntness, I think we all learned something today. Brian, my mother's voice came through, thick with tears. Please come home. Please, we can fix this. We can. Mom, I said gently, what exactly do you want to fix? The fact that you didn't know your own son was successful? Or the fact that you got caught not knowing? My father's voice boomed through the speaker. That's enough. You turned off our utilities on your mother's birthday. What kind of son does that? The question hung in the air like a challenge. I stood up from my deck chair, looking out at the Pacific Ocean, gathering my thoughts. The kind of son who spent 2 years quietly supporting parents who were ashamed of him, I said. The kind of son who accepted being uninvited to family gatherings because he supposedly wasn't successful enough. The kind of son who discovered that his own sister was lying to her boyfriend about his life, making him sound like a charity case while she lived in the glory of having an important relationship. Jessica's voice, raw from crying. Brian, I never meant for it to happen like this. I wanted Marcus to focus on me, not on my successful brother. I wanted to be the impressive one for once. There it was. The truth that had been lurking beneath years of family dynamics. Jessica, the golden child, the favorite, had been threatened by my success. So she'd buried it, rewritten it, turned my achievements into failures to preserve her position as the family star. And Mom, Dad, I continued, you never questioned it. You never asked about my work, never visited my office, never wondered how I could afford my house in Malibu on a supposed failure salary. You were content to believe I was struggling because it fit the narrative you preferred. My mother spoke through her tears. We just wanted you to be happy, Brian. We thought if you were struggling, we should give you space to figure it out. By excluding me from family celebrations? By not making you feel pressured to compete with Jessica's success. I almost laughed. Mom, Jessica works in marketing for a mid-size accounting firm in Pasadena. She makes decent money, enough to live comfortably, but she's not running a $50 million company. There was never any competition except in your minds. Through the phone, I heard Auntie Zolde's sharp intake of breath. Linda, Robert, did you really not know? Did you really believe Brian was doing poorly? A long pause, then my father's voice. Quieter now. We thought he was putting on a brave face. The nice clothes, the expensive car, we thought maybe he was in debt, trying to look successful while he figured things out. For 6 years, I asked. You thought I'd been faking success for 6 years? The question seemed to echo in both directions through the phone to my family's dark living room, and back to me, standing in my beautiful home that they'd never seen, overlooking an ocean they'd never watched me enjoy. That's when I realized the most painful truth of all. They hadn't just underestimated my success. They had never really known me at all. The weeks that followed were a masterclass in family desperation. My phone became a constant source of buzzing notifications, texts from Jessica, voicemails from my mother, and increasingly aggressive calls from my father. But the most telling communications came from people I barely knew. Distant relatives, family friends, even neighbors who had heard about the birthday party disaster. Word had spread quickly through our extended family network. Auntie Solda, despite her diplomatic nature, had apparently shared the story with her sisters, who shared it with their children, who shared it with their spouses. Within a week, everyone knew that Brian, the supposedly struggling tech worker, was actually a millionaire CEO who had been secretly supporting his parents while they excluded him from family events. The narrative shift was swift and brutal. Suddenly, my parents were no longer the generous, supportive couple who were patiently waiting for their wayward son to get his life together. They were the ungrateful parents who had bitten the hand that fed them, literally. Jessica's situation was even worse. Marcus had not only broken up with her at the party, but word had gotten out at her workplace about the incident. Apparently, Marcus had friends throughout the local tech industry, and her lies about her unsuccessful brother had made her something of a cautionary tale about family loyalty and honesty. She called me on a Tuesday evening, 3 weeks after the party. I was in my home office, reviewing quarterly reports, when her name flashed on my screen. Against my better judgment, I answered. Brian, she said, and her voice was different, smaller, more vulnerable than I'd ever heard it. I need to ask you for something, and I know I don't deserve it. I waited. Marcus won't return my calls. He's blocked me on social media. He won't respond to emails. And when I went to his apartment building, the doorman said he'd left instructions not to let me up. Jessica, I know what I did was wrong, she rushed on. I know I hurt you, and I know I lied, and I know I ruined everything. But I love him, Brian. I really love him, and I think if you talk to him, if you explain that I'm not really like that, maybe he'd give me another chance. I leaned back in my chair, staring out at the lights of Los Angeles stretching below. What exactly would you like me to tell him? That I'm a good person. That I made a mistake, but I'm not. I'm not the kind of person who would usually do something like this. But you did do this, Jessica. For 3 months, you consistently lied to someone you claimed to love about your own brother. You didn't make one mistake, you made a choice, repeatedly, to diminish my life in order to elevate your own. Her silence stretched long enough that I thought she might have hung up. I was jealous, she whispered finally. I've been jealous my whole life, Brian. You're smarter than me, more successful than me, and everyone who meets you remembers you. I'm just Jessica, and Marcus made me feel special, and I didn't want to share that feeling with anyone, even my own brother. It was the most honest thing she'd ever said to me. Jessica, I said gently, I can't fix this for you. Marcus didn't leave you because of me. He left you because of who you chose to be when you thought nobody was watching. 2 months later, in December, I was reviewing year-end financials when Sarah knocked on my office door. Mr. Chen? There are 2 people here to see you. They don't have an appointment, but they say they're your parents. I looked up from my computer screen, genuinely surprised. In the 8 weeks since the birthday party, my parents had called constantly but never attempted to visit my office. I'd assumed they didn't even know the address. Send them in, I said. My parents entered my corner office looking smaller than I remembered. My father, usually boisterous and confident, moved hesitantly, his eyes taking in the floor-to-ceiling windows, the modern furniture, the awards on the walls. My mother stayed close to him, her hands clasped tightly in front of her. Brian, she said softly, your office is beautiful. Thank you. I gestured to the chairs across from my desk. Please, sit down. They sat carefully, as if afraid they might break something. For a moment, we all just looked at each other, and I realized this was the first time my parents had ever seen me in my professional environment. They'd never visited my workplace, never seen the company I'd built, never witnessed the respect I commanded in this space. My father cleared his throat. Son, we've come to talk about the future. Okay. We've been thinking, my mother added, about everything that's happened, and we realize we made some mistakes. I waited for them to continue. The thing is, my father said, his voice taking on a tone I recognized from my childhood, the one he used when he was about to ask for something significant. We've been looking at our finances, and with the utilities back to their regular rates, things are pretty tight. I felt a cold understanding creep up my spine. We were hoping, my mother continued, that maybe we could work out an arrangement. Something formal this time, so there's no confusion. What kind of arrangement? My father leaned forward. Well, we raised you for 18 years, Brian. Paid for your food, your clothes, your education. That's gotta be worth something, right? We were thinking maybe $2,000 a month would be fair. Like a thank you payment for everything we invested in you. The audacity of it hit me like a physical blow. They weren't here to apologize. They weren't here to rebuild our relationship. They were here to monetize it. You want me to pay you for raising me? I said slowly. Not pay, my mother protested. Support. It's what successful children do for their parents, isn't it? Jessica helps when she can, but her salary is limited. You're the one with real money. I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the city below. Behind me, I could hear my parents shifting nervously in their chairs. I have a counter-proposal, I said finally, turning back to face them. Their faces lit up with hope. I'll give you $2,000 a month. Plus, I'll cover all your utilities and maintenance costs for the house. Full financial support. Brian, that's wonderful, my mother started. On one condition, I continued. You sign the house over to me in your will, full ownership, with Jessica receiving whatever liquid assets you have when you pass away. Think of it as me buying the house gradually, and you getting to live in it for the rest of your lives. The silence was immediate and complete. Or, I continued, Jessica can take over the full financial support of the house, and I'll match whatever she contributes monthly. If she can provide $1,000 a month, I'll provide $1,000. If she can manage $500, I'll match that. My father's face was growing red. You're trying to buy our house out from under us. I'm offering to support you completely in exchange for fair consideration, or to support you partially in partnership with Jessica. Those are your options. What if we don't want either option? My mother asked quietly. I looked at both of them, these people who had raised me, who had shaped me, who had ultimately failed to know me. Then I think you should leave my office, I said. My father exploded out of his chair. After everything we did for you? After we sacrificed to give you opportunities? This is how you repay us? I remained standing by the window, my voice calm. You sacrificed to raise me, just like millions of parents sacrifice to raise their children every day. That's what parents do. You don't get to collect interest on love 27 years later. We're not asking for interest, my mother said, tears starting to form. We're asking for help from our successful son. No, I replied. You're asking for payment. There's a difference. When you help someone, you don't itemize the cost and present a bill. You don't show up at their workplace with a calculated amount based on what you think you're owed. My father was pacing now, his voice rising. So we get nothing? We raised you, supported your dreams, sent you to college, and we get nothing? You got a son, I said simply. You got 18 years of watching me grow up, of being part of my childhood, of having a family. What more did you expect? Respect, he shouted. Gratitude. Some recognition for what we invested in you. I walked back to my desk and sat down, looking at both of them. I gave you respect for 27 years. I gave you gratitude by quietly paying your bills for over 2 years without ever asking for recognition. What I never received was the simple acknowledgement that I was worthy of being included in my own family. My mother wiped her eyes. Brian, we love you. We've always loved you. But you never liked me, I said. There's a difference. You love the idea of having a son, but you never actually enjoyed my company enough to want me around. The truth of it settled over the room like dust. My father stopped pacing and stared at me. That's not true. When was the last time you called me just to talk? Not to ask for something. Not because there was a family event to coordinate. But just because you wanted to hear how I was doing? He opened his mouth, then closed it. When was the last time you asked about my work, my friends, my life? When was the last time either of you treated me like someone whose presence added value to your day? My mother looked down at her hands. We thought you were busy. Successful people are always busy. Successful people are still people, Mom. We still want to be wanted. I stood up again, this time walking toward the door. I need you both to leave now. If you decide you want a relationship with your son, you know how to reach me. If you decide you want a monthly payment from your investor, then we're done talking. My father's face was purple now. This is blackmail. No, Dad. Blackmail is what you just attempted. What I'm offering is a choice between a family relationship and a business relationship. You can't have both. They stood up slowly, my mother leaning heavily on my father's arm. 2 years, my father said at the door. We'll give you 2 years to cool off and realize you need your family more than your pride. I looked at him for a long moment. I hope not, I said. They left without another word. 2 years have passed since that December afternoon in my office. 2 years of silence from the people who raised me. 2 years of building deeper relationships with the people who chose me. My company has grown to over 600 employees. We've opened offices in 3 new cities, and Forbes featured us on their cover story about sustainable energy innovation. Jessica tried reaching out a few times during the first year. Holiday texts, birthday messages, updates about her new job at a marketing firm in Denver. I responded politely but briefly. She never mentioned Marcus, and I never asked. Some wounds are meant to heal in silence. Marcus, ironically, has become one of my most valuable employees. He was promoted to senior project manager 6 months after the birthday party incident, and his work on solar panel efficiency has helped us secure 2 major government contracts. We maintain a professional relationship, but sometimes I catch him looking at me with something that might be understanding, or sympathy, or both. I think about that terrible birthday party often, but not with sadness anymore. It taught me something crucial about the difference between family and relatives, between love and obligation, between being valued and being useful. My parents sent a Christmas card this past December. No note inside, just their signatures. Love, Mom and Dad. I kept it on my refrigerator for a few weeks, then quietly threw it away. Love, I've learned, isn't just a signature at the bottom of a card. It's showing up. It's asking questions. It's celebrating someone's presence instead of just tolerating it. I've built a new kind of family now. Sarah, my assistant, knows more about my daily life than my parents ever did. My business partner, David, calls me every Sunday to talk about everything except work. My neighbors in Malibu invite me to their dinner parties and actually listen when I talk. These people chose to include me in their lives, and I chose to include them in mine. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I just quietly endured being excluded from that birthday party, if I'd swallowed my hurt and continued paying those utility bills in secret, if I'd accepted being the embarrassing, unsuccessful son who wasn't worth celebrating. But then I remember the look on Marcus's face when he realized who I was, the shame in Jessica's voice when she admitted her jealousy, the calculation in my parents' eyes when they came to collect their payment, and I know that staying silent wouldn't have preserved my family, it would have preserved a lie. The hardest lesson I've learned is that some people will never see your worth no matter how much evidence you provide. They'll take your generosity for granted, mistake your kindness for weakness, and treat your love like a renewable resource that never runs out. But the most important lesson is this. You don't have to let them. Family isn't defined by blood or obligation or who raised whom. Family is defined by who shows up, who celebrates your victories, who includes you in their joy. Family is the people who would never dream of asking you to stay away from your own mother's birthday party because you might embarrass them. I found my family. It just wasn't the one I was born into. And you know what? That's okay. Because the family you choose is often the family that chooses you back. And that makes all the difference in the world.